Hello everyone, it's Mallory here with All About Cats. In today's video, we're going to be taking a closer look at an incredibly popular cat food brand called Fancy Feast. So first things first, what is Fancy Feast? Where does it come from? Fancy Feast dates back to 1982, when it was created as really the first cat food company to capitalize on this concept of gourmet luxury cat food. As a Nestle Purina brand, Fancy Feast is a really significant player in the cat food market. So Fancy Feast offers an enormous selection of recipes. So they emphasize wet over dry foods with just a few dry recipes and then over 100 different wet food varieties. These wet foods are divided into 3 lines and then a tremendous number of different flavors and textures. In addition to this huge variety of wet foods, Fancy Feast offers a selection of food toppers and complements to go along with your cat's daily diet. While most Fancy Feast foods are inexpensive, their product lineup really spans the price spectrum. The wet foods in their classics line are going to cost around $1 a day for a typical cat, while their dry foods will typically cost maybe 20 cents per day. Once you start moving up into their medleys and their gourmet naturals lines, you might start spending closer to $2 per day on a typical cat. And then their purely flaked line, which is supposed to be kind of their high-end wet food, is going to cost closer to $4 a day, putting it among the most expensive cat foods on the market. So you can really spend as little or as much as you want while choosing Fancy Feast foods. Now that we've talked about Fancy Feast's selection, let's talk a bit about where Fancy Feast foods are made. The answer to that question is going to depend on where you're purchasing the food, since Fancy Feast is sold all around the world. But in the United States, most of your Fancy Feast products are going to be made in Purina-owned facilities in the United States. Now, there are a few exceptions to this rule. Fancy Feast Purely line, as well as their broths and their flaked fish and shrimp feast, are made in Thailand. So just as most of the ingredients used in their US produced foods are sourced from the United States, it appears that most of the ingredients in their Thailand produced foods are sourced from Thailand. That being said, ingredient sourcing is not a huge part of the Fancy Feast brand, and it appears that they're sourcing ingredients from really around the world. So while most of their ingredients are going to be sourced relatively close to their manufacturing facilities, that's not a rule. They can be getting ingredients from, around the world. Another thing worth mentioning when we're talking about Purina manufactured foods is that Purina seems to have a pretty strong research and development department, as well as quality assurance systems. So obviously Purina is a huge company and they seem to have really well-funded facilities. And that kind of leads us into our next point, which is recall history. So according to my research and the research done by the team at Petful.com, it doesn't appear that Fancy Feast has been involved in really any recalls. Other Purina brands have been recalled several times. You can check out the link in the description to learn more about Purina and its recall history. But Fancy Feast specifically has not been involved in any recalls. While this type of clean recall history doesn't necessarily mean that Fancy Feast food is always going to be perfectly safe, it does say some good things about the company. It says that the company seems to be doing a good job of maintaining quality and consistency in their Fancy Feast foods. So we've talked a bit about the brand's background, but I think in order to really understand what Fancy Feast has to offer, we're going to have to take a closer look at a few of their most popular recipes. So as you can see, I've purchased a bit of a selection of Fancy Feast foods, and I'm going to be highlighting 3 of their most popular recipes. So we're going to be first off looking at their Chicken Feast Pate. So this is a very popular chicken-based pate style food that features, chicken as its first ingredient. But like a lot of other Fancy Feast foods, this product is not just made from chicken. It contains a lot of other generically labeled meat ingredients. So in addition to chicken, this food contains meat byproducts, fish, and liver. Note that all of these ingredients are very vaguely named. These are generic ingredients. And while generic ingredients aren't necessarily lower quality or less wholesome than those clearly named ingredients like chicken, there is a higher chance that these ingredients will be a bit lower value than their named counterparts. In addition to these protein sources, the food contains both natural and artificial flavors, and it contains guar gum as a thickener. Overall, I like how this food emphasizes meat ingredients over plants. This is a very meat-heavy food, but I didn't like that the food contained some potentially lower value sources of that animal protein. It's just really hard to know how nutritious these protein sources actually are. At roughly 58% protein, 29% fat, and 13% carbohydrates on a dry matter basis, according to the guaranteed analysis, this looks like a relatively species-appropriate food. It cost about 19 cents per ounce, making it one of the cheaper wet foods you can buy. The next food that I'm going to take a look at is their classic tender beef feast. So like the last food we looked at, this food is a pate style product that emphasizes beef as its first ingredient, but then goes into a few different generically labeled meat ingredients. So the beef is cooked in something referred to as meat broth, and then it's infused with meat byproducts and fish and that generically labeled liver again. Using ingredients like meat byproducts that don't really tell you which type of meat is involved also means that food-sensitive cats are going to be exposed to a wide variety of unknown proteins. So if your cat has some digestive issues and then you're feeding them a food like this, it's going to be very difficult for you to get a handle on which proteins and which ingredients are causing that distress. This product is also flavored with a combination of artificial and natural flavors. Overall, I like that this food was a meat-based product. I like that it included animal muscle meats and organs as its primary ingredients. That being said, I didn't really care for the quality of ingredients used here. Animal byproducts and generically named ingredients just open up a lot of wiggle room in terms of ingredient quality. According to the guaranteed analysis, this food is about 61% protein, 34% fat, and 5% carbohydrates on a dry matter basis. The food costs about 18 cents per ounce, making it one of the cheapest wet foods you can buy. Now, our final product-specific review is going to be one of Fancy Feast's few dry recipes. So we're going to be taking a look at Fancy Feast Gourmet with Savory Chicken and Turkey recipe. The very first thing that I notice when I look at this food is its name. So this food is called With Savory Chicken and Turkey. According to FDA regulations, food must contain at least 3% of the ingredients listed after the word with. So this is a pretty low threshold. So considering that Fancy Feast is using this with chicken and turkey label, it's not really a surprise that chicken and turkey aren't even the first ingredients on the ingredient list. Instead, the number one spot on the ingredient list goes to ground rice. So this is certainly not something that I would like to see at the very top of the ingredient list. The next ingredient on the list is poultry byproduct meal. Again, a very vaguely labeled animal byproduct with a lot of room for lower quality, lower value inclusions. And then the next ingredient is corn gluten meal. As we go down the ingredient list, there are a ton of plant ingredients, many sources of plant-derived protein, many sources of carbohydrates. So this is a really starchy, really plant-based food that fails to honor your cat's needs as an obligate carnivore. In addition to the use of so many plant ingredients, this food has another quality that makes it a less than ideal choice for your cat. So it contains a variety of artificial colors. I really couldn't find that much to like about this food, frankly. It really looks like a starchy, dyed cereal for your cat. Thanks to the use of synthetic minerals and vitamins and amino acids and kind of a diverse ingredient list, this food does manage to deliver the nutrients that your cat is going to need in order to, survive and stay pretty healthy. But it's not really an ideal source of nutrition for your cat. According to the guaranteed analysis, this food is roughly 40% protein, 22% fat, and 39% carbohydrates on a dry matter basis. At about 10 cents per ounce, this food is one of the cheapest products you can buy. So overall, is Fancy Feast a good choice? That really depends on which Fancy Feast recipe you choose. Again, Fancy Feast offers a huge selection, and you can get cheap foods, expensive foods, wet foods, dry foods. You can really choose your Fancy Feast experience. Some of their recipes, like the Pates in their Classics line and some of their flaked formulas, are among the lowest carbohydrate, most meat-rich recipes you can buy, especially at this price point. For example, we recommend their flaked fish and shrimp feast as one of the lowest carbohydrate recipes on the market and as a really good budget option for cats who need to lose weight or who have diabetes. And in our video on the best kitten food, we recommended their turkey formula as one of the best budget-friendly kitten foods. That being said, a lot of the recipes contain rather low-value ingredients, and some of their more expensive formulas really don't seem worth the price. Their dry foods certainly are not among my top recommendations. I really don't think that they deliver the right quality of nutrition even for such a low price. To summarize, let's take a look at how Fancy Feast measures up to the We're All About Cats standard. With most of its foods being wet recipes and the majority of those formulas placing a heavy emphasis on meat ingredients over plants, the foods manage to do a good job of honoring your cat's needs as a carnivore. So we give them an 8 out of 10 in terms of species appropriateness. Fancy Feast doesn't do quite as well in terms of ingredient quality. It tends to use a lot of animal byproducts. We're seeing some artificial additives. The foods overall aren't made from what appear to be the greatest ingredients. So in terms of ingredient quality, I'm going to give them a 3 out of 10 score. Their product variety is outstanding as long as you want wet foods. So I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10 in terms of product variety. Fancy Feast foods are priced quite competitively, so you can get relatively good foods at relatively good prices. So I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10 score in the price category. Now, what about customer experience? This is pretty mixed. Most cats seem to find something that they like in the Fancy Feast lineup. You're getting good prices, their foods usually get good reviews, but at the same time, you aren't really getting anything special. You're not getting really attentive customer service. It's going to take a while to get through on their customer support line. Their customer experience isn't necessarily outstanding. So I'm going to give Fancy Feast a 6 out of 10 in this category. Finally, we give Fancy Feast a 6 out of 10 score in terms of recall history. Now, Fancy Feast has, of course, never been recalled according to our research, but other Purina brands have, and so we're not able to give it a really high score in the recall history category. Overall, Fancy Feast earns a 39 out of 60 rating or a B- grade. So that is it for our review of Fancy Feast cat food. Again, if you're interested in more information on Fancy Feast, check out the description below for a link to our complete written review of this brand. There you're going to find quite a bit more detail on everything mentioned here. And while you're in the description, you'll also see a link to sign up to our free recall alert program. So by signing up to this recall alert program, you'll get the news every time another pet food in the United States is recalled, allowing you to stay on top of things and help to keep your cat safe. So I think that's about it for this week. Again, I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. It helps us a lot. You can also go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. That way you'll get the news every time we release another brand review like this one, or a buyer's guide, or any other information on all things cats. Thank you so much. Bye.